Hello YouTube, God is good all the time. Today my video is about how to make grape juice from your own grapes from start to finish. How to condense it down and to can it. Now, you may notice that the pan sitting there with the grapes in it, if you're observant enough, those are fake. Because, well, I had made the video of me with the grapes in the pan, and unfortunately somehow when I was transferring it and cleaning up some of the other videos, I must have accidentally deleted that one. And so what I'm doing is I'm just putting the fake grapes in there for visual effect to give you an idea, because really all I do is throw all the grapes in there. I do remove the leaves, but stems and all just go in the pot. And then you take your old-fashioned potato masher. Let me pull that out. I just forgot to have it ready. And just mash them down. Just keep mashing them down. You're going to set your heat on a low simmer. And you're just going to cook it for several hours. Keep coming back, check it, leave the lid off, because if you're wanting to condense your juice, you want as much of the liquid, the water in there, to evaporate out, so you have a nice condensed grape juice. And anyway, just keep coming back, check it, mash it down, keep it on a low simmer. Now, I wanted to show you real quick also how I do this is I have a perfectly good range here. I've had it for a good number of years. I don't know, at least 20. And it's been an excellent range. However, it really doesn't get used that much anymore, because in the summertime, I run everything off of, like if I'm doing anything on the stovetop, I use my hot plates. And they are connected to a solar outlet. And then my baking is either done in my solar oven outside, because I have a chicken out there right now roasting in my solar oven, or I use that toaster oven that is connected to the solar outlet that is directly behind it. You should be able to see it there. And all the other appliances as well, the coffee maker, the blender, are all hooked up to solar. That's what that little green light is down there, because I have an extension cord going from that outlet over, so I can have this other hot plate, the coffee pot, you know, the blender, and then I do a lot of my cooking and baking over on this counter anyway, or a lot of my baking, preparing, and all that. And so that's also where I'll plug in any other kind of utensil I need that runs off electricity, like my stick blender and so on. So anyway, that's how I do that. But yeah, so the video, really, you're not missing much. This actually looks much prettier because the grapes that I turned into juice were frozen grapes, and so they didn't look real pretty anyway. So this looks much nicer. This actually is how it looks, is more how it's going to look when you got the grapes fresh from the vine and you throw them into the pan. So again, I'll just make sure you set it on low and simmer it for several hours, lid off, keep checking it, keep mashing it with your potato masher or whatever works for you to keep mashing it down. All right, and then we'll move on to the next process. Is once you've got it cooked down as far as you want, then you want to strain off the liquid, and I'll show you how to do that. Now I'm ready to dump this in there and then let this cloth filter out all the grape pieces, the seeds, the stems, the skins. Unfortunately, I cannot show you me doing this because I don't have anybody here to videotape me or to, video me. And I have my tripod, but the little thing that holds the camera to the tripod, I don't know where that is. I think my son might have it because he's, he was making his own videos there for a while and he's at work. So anyway, I think what I'll do is I'll just set the camera down and pour it, and then I'll show you what it looks like once it's poured. So you'll at least be able to hear it. So I'm pouring it in there slowly. Yeah, it's kind of a messy process. It's very hot right now. The color isn't real pretty like it turned out last year, and I'm pretty sure it's because I froze the grapes first. This is the first time I've done this with frozen grapes. Actually, last year, making that grape juice was the first time I made it. No, it was the second. That's right, because I made some initially, and I turned it into grape soda, which I forgot to mention earlier, using my fermentation starter. And you can have healthy homemade soda, all natural, by using your own starter. There's no, it makes it bubbly and yummy. You do have to drink it up right away. And I'm kind of trying to get in here where you can see the juice going through the cloth and into the bowl. And then what I'm going to do is these other, the other 3 pints that I showed you earlier that I'd frozen, I pulled out of the freezer. I don't recall if I said this earlier, but I'm letting those thaw out. Now I'm going to add them to this mixture and then can them all at the same time. So, and I will show you that when I get that far, which actually this is happening faster than I thought. And I think it is because I froze the grapes first. So they cook down a lot quicker because they were already broken down from the freezing process. So this will take a while to strain. I'm going to let it sit for a while, and it's really too hot to handle anyway. And then once it gets to a point where it's cool enough to handle and a lot of the liquid's drained out, then I will take the clips off and squeeze this out by hand through the cloth. Personally, I don't mind if I get a little fruit mash in there. It's just not a big deal to me. I think it's healthier that way myself, getting something in there. Mostly I just don't want the seeds and the stems and the skins. But if some of the fruit pulp ends up in there, I'm cool with that. In fact, looking at my stuff that's thawing out, I can tell that there's some pulp in there, and I'm totally, I think that's great. So anyway, I will come back when I get to the process of that and being able to put it in the jars, and then we'll be canning it. So see you in a bit. Okay, you can see that I get a little more juice in there, I think. A little dark, sorry. But you can see the difference in color. There's this. It's kind of brown. I'm sure that's because I froze it. This is what it looked like last year. Now, the reason my grape juice is not purple is because most of the grapes I grow are white, and then I have one blue. It's called a buffalo blue, and the other one is an amber, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it. I just know it's something amber. So, and I have one of those. And so this color here is coming mostly from the buffalo blues, which I didn't have near as much of. The other ones, the other 2 plants are Niagara whites. So that's why the color looks like that. But it's still just, it tastes really good. When I made that grape soda last year, it was amazing. It was very amazing. But as I said, I think I started to say, I don't know if I finished. I tend to rabbit trail a lot, but the soda, you have to drink it up very fast. It takes 3 days for it to be, 2 to 3 days, depending on how warm the weather is, for it to be fully bubbly and yummy. But it will keep fermenting even if you put it in the fridge. And if you're trying to avoid alcohol, or you're wanting to give it to your kids, it really needs to be, you need to drink it up in 3 days. So, or yeah, in a matter of just a couple of days. Otherwise, it'll just keep getting stronger and stronger. And again, that's going to be your matter of choice. I try to avoid that stuff myself, and I certainly wouldn't want to give it to the kids past that point. But in the first, if you catch it right away, when it's just hit the point of bubbly, the alcohol to content is so very low. Obviously there's some because it's fermented. You're going to have a little bit of alcohol in anything that's fermented. That's just the way it is, but it's going to be so low that it won't have any effect. And it's safe for kids. As long as it's within that time frame that you use it up. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to show you the difference in color. So the freezing, it makes it not so pretty. We'll see what happens once it's mixed together. But regardless, my main thing of making this juice and canning it up is to have it for whatever. If I decide to make juice out of it, fine. I mean, who's going to care about the color? We don't care about stuff like that. We just, you know, this is the way it is when things are done naturally. We don't put artificial colors or flavors or anything in our foods. And because if I'd used only buffalo blue grapes, then I would have had a nice dark purple grape juice. But I'll be putting a picture, inserting a picture here of the harvest that I got last year when we had to go out there and get all those to keep them away from the raccoons. And so you can see the difference in how many blues to the greens. I think the first batch of juice I made, I went out and picked a bunch. I mostly had buffalo blues in there, so I had a nice dark grape juice. I think I have a picture of the grape soda that I made, and I will try to stick that in here somewhere too. Anyway, so I'll be back after this is cooled off some more, and I can squeeze all that, you know, all the juice out of that pulp, and then start putting it in the jars. I'm straining this out now, and I kind of cheated because I went ahead and poured at least one of the jars of the other grape juice, because it was still cold, through there so it would cool off quicker and make it easier to handle. Now, I won't be able to hold the camera until I get that piece from my son. I'm pretty sure he has it to go on the tripod. Anyway, I won't be able to hold the camera and do this completely, because you really need two hands to really squeeze all that juice out, because you want to get all that you can. Obviously, you don't want any waste. And of course, none of this really will go to waste, because all this pulp, the skins, the stems, everything is going to just go out into the garden. I'll probably throw this onto the potato patch. That is actually how I do all my compost. I don't have a separate compost pile. People might think that's a little weird. It's just what I do. I throw, you know, whatever area of the garden is not currently, you know, have anything growing in it, then I just throw my compost on it and layer it out, you know, just spread it out. Anyway, I'm going to finish squeezing this out, and then I will get back when I'm ready to have pretty much every drop. No, well, not every drop, but I have most of the juice squeezed out of the pulp, and I can tell because it's real tight. It's very, sorry, I'm really terrible trying to hold this camera. It's just very, you know, packed together, so you can see that there. Anyway, that's the pulp. So I'm just going to use this and pour it into the jars this way. I don't know how well I'll do this holding a camera. Really need to remember to ask my son to get me that piece for my tripod. Anyway, so thinking I might even fill up more jars than I thought. I don't know, we'll see. And this is, of course, after I dumped in the juice from last year that I had frozen. Get these filled up. I suppose I could finish this without the videotaping, so I can concentrate and not make such a big mess, and then show you once I get that into the canner. And yeah, I'm actually surprised with how well the color turned out, considering how brown the frozen juice looked. I've got the juice all jarred up and ready to go in the canner, and surprisingly enough, I had exactly the amount I needed to fill up 6 jars. I was guessing 6 jars, and so I'm really surprised. Just exactly. Pretty cool. It'd been more cooler if I had 7, since, you know, your typical canner, you have 7 jar spaces at the bottom. But anyway, so I'm going to put these in the canner and get it cooking. All right, I have the juice now in my canner. As you can see, I'm going to be using the hot water bath method. And this is how I do all my canning. This is back when the turkey fryer thing was huge. We got the whole turkey fryer set up, maybe fried 2 turkeys in it. However, the cooker has been used, I don't know how many times, but ever since, for canning. And I also do my pressure canning on there. And I have the All-American canner. This is the second to largest size. And it fits perfectly on this thing. But if I ever need to replace it, I can always just go buy a crab cooker because it's virtually the same thing. It just doesn't have the little shelf off to the side, which is handy. It's where I keep my weight, as you can see, for my, for the pressure canner, and then of course my propane tank. And this is how I do my canning. Now, one of these days, I keep saying I'm going to do it, and I don't want to fuss with it today, but one of these days I'm going to remember to pull out my rocket stove, and you'll see a picture of that in my intro video, and try at least doing a hot water bath can on that, and then get used to using that on that first, and then try it pressure canning something with that. It does take, when you're using the rocket stove, it does take constant supervision to make sure you keep that fire going and keep it and keep the temperature stable. And it's a little trickier with that. This alone, I do have to constantly keep an eye on it, especially when I'm pressure canning, because the temperature keeps varying. But that's just part of pressure canning anyway. You need to be keeping an eye on it. But it's not, a lot of people are afraid the first time. I know I was for years, and finally just had to do it. Had to jump in and do it. And once I did it one time, I was hooked. I love pressure canning. I love canning, period, but pressure canning especially, because you can do anything. And meat, believe it or not, is one of the easiest things to can. And I have all kinds of canned meat put up. So anyway, I'm going to light this, and we'll get it boiling. And then it'll need to, once it comes to a boil, I'm going to process this for 10 minutes. Okay, as you can see, we're at a full boil. So this is where we start timing. That's how you want it to look. I'm actually going to turn the heat down some, because I don't need to be using that much propane for that part of the boil. Okay, alright, my timer went off, so I'm turning this off here. Oh, I think my camera got all steamed up there, sorry. And now I am ready to lift the jars out. So I got to get my little jar lifter, which is sitting over here on top of my barbecuer for some reason. Oh, I remember why. Okay, so I just want to take these out, set them on a towel, and then wait for them lids to start popping. And I know you'll see this one with the writing on it. This is not, though I recently heard that you really can use your lids up to 6 times, I guess, but I would have to research that before I used them for canning. Now, I reuse my lids all the time for dehydrated stuff and then vacuum sealing. That works great. But anyway, that one with the writing on it was actually a new lid that has not been used for canning. It was the one of the ones that I had used for the frozen grape juice, so it should be fine, I would think. We'll find out. I'll just have to make sure I keep checking that seal. So anyway, it's just a matter of waiting for these to make sure to pop. I'm not sure if I don't think you should start hearing some tinks going on here pretty soon. Oh, there's one. So once you hear that, you know it has sealed. That's why canners love that sound, because we know that was another successful jar when we hear that sound. So anyway, yeah, and then of course we'll let it cool. I'll leave it out for probably 24 hours and double check, make sure everything's got a good seal before I mark it and then pack it away. And then, two back to back. Anyway, and then we'll have some nice grape juice for, like I said before, probably mostly just using it to cook my dehydrated apples in for apple pie or things like that. But it's there for juice or whatever else I need it for.